Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cinema Chat. I am David Heath, and this is my first full podcast. And I have decided that for this podcast, and since this is a podcast about the movies, this series is about the movies, I have decided to start it with a movie that I'm extremely familiar with. And that movie is Silver Streak. This is one of my personal favorites, and I've seen it probably more than I've seen any other movie. And that says a lot because I can watch a lot of movies a lot of times. Anyway, I wanted to talk about Silver Streak today, and also delve into the little bit of the relationship between Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder. But Silver Streak is a movie that's full of laughs and chills and spills. Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor, it's their first teaming together. They had excellent screen chemistry. They balanced each other out really well. As a matter of fact, they were not at all like to look at or listen to. Gene Wilder was always excitable, and Richard Pryor was always kind of cool, and didn't really care what was going on. In real life, Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor were not great friends. As it turns out, they got along really pretty well on the set, but Richard Pryor had many problems due to drugs, and he was a bit of a loner, and Gene Wilder, as did all of the members of the set, got a little tired of the shenanigans, and this is something that Gene Wilder admitted on Johnny Carson in the 90s. So they weren't really great friends, but they did have excellent chemistry. They went on to star in 4 movies together, and within a 15-year period. Gene Wilder in Silver Streak plays George Caldwell, and Gene Wilder has the most screen time of anyone in the film. He is definitely our film's protagonist, the story's protagonist. He is the guy we root for. He plays George Caldwell, and George meets Jill Clayburgh. Jill Clayburgh's name is Hilly Burns in the movie, and they hit it off together, and they end up having a cabin in the train where the connecting door was stuck. Therefore, it was easy to open, and so it wasn't locked. So they ended up in Hilly's portion of the cabin, and all of a sudden, Gene Wilder sees a dead man on the side of the train and through the window, or at least what he thinks is a dead man. And it turns out that was indeed what he saw, and that was Hilly's boss. And the main part of the movie is to basically take Gene Wilder's character George Caldwell into an adventure that an average guy like him just wasn't used to. He gets thrown off the train 3 times. He gets accused of murder that he didn't commit. He eventually ends up stealing a car with Richard Pryor's character, and gets involved with a runaway train at the end. He eventually gets teamed up with Richard Pryor, of course, and Richard Pryor had 50% of the funny lines in this movie and 100% of the hilarious lines. He was just absolutely incredible in that movie, and but the movie keeps a very, very fast pace. There's all kinds of things going on, all kinds of side characters, mostly side villains, and but the movie doesn't slow down at all. Only a couple of times to give you a chance to catch your breath, maybe for a moment. But really, the only slower parts of the movie are really to explain the thickness of the plot itself. And the movie is very has a it's directed by Arthur Hiller, and Arthur Hiller clearly is giving a tip of the cap to Alfred Hitchcock in this movie. It's got murder after murder, and but somehow it remains a comedy. But the movie has a very identical theme, written by Henry Mancini, that you hear several times. And Henry Mancini, of course, composed dozens of songs, or dozens of pieces for movies and TV, and the theme is very identifiable, and it does help the movie keep a steady pace. And Arthur Hiller was a veteran director. He directed more than 40 films altogether in his life. He did express regret about this one film, about not getting Richard Pryor into the movie a little sooner. The plot doesn't really lend to getting Pryor into the movie sooner, but I think that the laughs we have in the last 50 minutes of the film make up for the hour that we didn't have him. And Gene Wilder definitely does a fantastic job as the ordinary, average guy, not accustomed to excitement. He shoots a man with a spear gun, and he sees all kinds of things happening, and he's just an editor, and whose claim to fame is editing books about gardening, and he's involved with all these shenanigans. But he's not used to this type of thing, and he went on the train talking with Ned Beatty in the movie, a side character who really actually plays a key part in the film because he turns out to be an FBI agent. But anyway, he tells Ned Beatty that he has no interest in finding a romance on the train. He just wants to relax, and of course, that's the first 5 minutes. But after that, there's no relaxing for him. Anyway, but Richard Pryor, the co-star, like I said, he is just absolutely hysterical in the movie, and there's so many scenes in this where he just steals it. But at the same time, Gene Wilder is escaping from, or trying to escape from, the authorities because they believe he committed a murder, and he didn't. But they're at a train station in Kansas City, and he is he puts on shoe polish to make himself look black, and the scene that follows is just unbelievably funny, and it's something that's just you have to see. And like I said earlier, Jill Clayburgh plays the love interest of George Caldwell, Gene Wilder, and she is a key part in the film because George is trying to ensure her safety, and because there is a very bad man on the train. His name is Roger Devereaux, and Roger Devereaux is played by Patrick McGoohan, a veteran actor who played in dozens and dozens of films and TV shows. McGoohan plays a great villain. He is a positively dastardly man that does anything to keep his neck out of trouble. Spoiler alert. There's a lot of irony to keeping his neck out of trouble, because that is indeed his problem in the end, as he is decapitated. Sorry about the spoiler there. He forces the train engineer to continue to drive the train. He's holding a gun at the engineer's head, and forgive the bad impression, he tells the engineer to keep your foot on the pedal. And meanwhile, the train engineer is trying desperately to just jump the train and get out of there, and then hopefully the train will stop. As Roger Devereaux is running away from the authorities. And the train ends up running into Marshall Field in Chicago. It's extremely exhilarating. Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor starred in 4 movies together, and they played after Silver Streak. They were in a movie called Stir Crazy. Stir Crazy and Silver Streak both made 10 times their budget. Silver Streak's budget was $5 million, and it made $50 million in 1976. And Stir Crazy's budget was $10 million and made over $100 million. And so it made for a really good teaming. And Stir Crazy is a movie directed by Sidney Poitier that the two heroes in the film actually are mistaken for bank robbers, and it turns out to be a fun movie. And they went on to also play in See No Evil, Hear No Evil in 1989, and that was a slightly politically incorrect film about Wilder being a deaf man and Pryor being a blind man, and all of the hilarity that ensues. But they, once again, I don't know what it is about Gene Wilder, but he plays the average guy getting in trouble with the law for a crime he didn't commit. This time it's a murder that the authorities believe that they committed together, and of course they didn't. Fun film. And then they played in one last movie together called Another You. That was an unfortunate situation where it was the final film for both Wilder, final feature film for Wilder and Pryor, and Richard Pryor got sick with multiple sclerosis and really wasn't able to do any more movies after that, and Gene Wilder, for the most part, retired as well. But Another You was panned generally by everyone, and spelled the end of a great team, and also 2 really great movie careers, as both of them played in several roles brilliantly. Richard Pryor died in 2005 after suffering a heart attack. He had, as I said, multiple sclerosis. He was diagnosed in the 90s, which really kept him from making any more movies, and really, in general, working regularly at all. He did continue to do comedy from the stage, sitting down, and people did get to at least enjoy that. But Richard Pryor's life is a podcast in and of itself, and Gene Wilder went on to direct and act in a few more. He made a few more appearances as an actor, and also directed some movies after the two stopped making movies together. But Gene Wilder stated late in life that this is a quote. He says, "I don't like show business. I like show, but I don't like business, unquote. But Gene Wilder is one of my favorite actors. I really enjoyed watching his movies as a child and as an adult. But he, of course, died a couple of years ago, as did Arthur Hiller, the director of Silver Streak. They died within days of each other, as a matter of fact. But Silver Streak is a fantastic movie. I've always enjoyed it, and I like the runaway train. I like the juxtaposition of personalities that Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor offer, and it's exciting and exhilarating movie that has a extremely fast pace. But I really enjoyed talking about this movie. It is, again, one of my favorites, and I hope that you enjoy it, and I hope that more importantly you enjoy the movie. And if you haven't seen it, definitely watch it. And that is the end of my first podcast, and I will be posting this on Facebook, and I hope you enjoyed. And be on the lookout for podcast number 2 soon.